Hello and welcome to page number 2 of Paperbound Monsters. This week's theme is dolls. Let's begin, shall we? The first story is from r/scarystories. The title reads, "The doll I buried years ago suddenly showed up on my doorstep with fresh dirt on its feet. I gave birth to my son 6 years ago. He was the sunshine of my life, the bright spot in every day, and he made mine and my husband's world feel perfect. From the moment he was born, everything seemed to revolve around his laughter and curiosity. He had this doll, an old, ragged thing we found one afternoon on the playground. Its plastic eyes were scratched to oblivion, one arm was missing, and its faded clothes were torn in places. It looked like garbage to anyone else, but to my son, it was a treasure. He carried it everywhere, clutching it tightly like a lifeline. The doll became his constant companion, his best friend, and I watched with a bittersweet smile as he whispered secrets to it and included it in every game. My husband and I figured he'd outgrow it eventually, so we let him keep it, thinking it would quietly end up forgotten in the bottom of his toy box. But a year passed, and he still kept the doll close, talking to it softly when he thought no one was listening. I thought it was strange, but I didn't want to be the one to take it away. One afternoon, I was kneeling in the garden, my hands deep in the dark soil as I planted tomato seeds and sprigs of basil. The warm sun pressed on my back, and the faint scent of earth and greenery surrounded me. I glanced up, expecting to see my son playing nearby, but in the blink of an eye, the peacefulness shattered. Tires screeched sharply, followed by a sickening crash. I turned and saw him, my baby boy lying motionless on the pavement, blood pooling beneath him like a terrible shadow. His small hand still gripped the battered doll tightly. Everything after that is a blur. Shouts, flashing lights, my husband's frantic voice. But all I remember is falling to my knees beside him, my heart breaking into 1,000 pieces. The ambulance came, sirens wailing, but it was too late. He was gone. The following months were an unbearable nightmare. Planning his funeral at 4 years old was the cruelest thing I could imagine. Night after night, I was haunted by the crash, the sound of screeching tires, the look in his eyes. I blamed myself for that momentary distraction in the garden. I stopped eating, lost hours of sleep, and the grief swallowed me whole. My husband suffered too, but his concern was for me, wondering if I'd eat, if I'd hold on. I felt selfish for not being able to support him. Eventually, we talked openly and began to heal, even if only a little. The doll stayed in my son's room for a while, sitting in the corner like a ghost of happier days. My husband and I agreed it was time to bury it with him, his only friend, his constant companion. We got permission and buried the doll beside my son's grave a few days later, covering it with soft earth and fresh flowers. 2 years passed in a blur of vacations and trying to reclaim joy. We traveled to places we dreamed of, laughing again, but never once did I stop missing my son. One quiet evening, while watching our favorite TV show together, I heard a sharp knock at the door. I stood up and told my husband to stay put and catch me up on the show when I returned. At the door, I hesitated. The street was empty. I scanned the dark road, thinking maybe some pranksters were nearby. Just as I was about to close the door, out of the corner of my eye, I saw it. The doll. The same battered, torn doll, eyes scratched, one arm missing, that he had buried 6 feet under, next to our son. Its plastic feet were coated in fresh, damp dirt, and small, muddy footprints led right up to our doorstep. A wave of panic slammed into me, squeezing my chest so tight it was hard to breathe. My hands trembled as I slammed the door shut, loud enough to rouse my husband. He came crashing in, alarmed by the look on my face as I gasped for air. "What's wrong, honey?" he asked, his voice thick with concern. I swallowed hard, finally able to whisper, "The doll, it's outside." He opened the door and stared at the doll, which seemed impossibly real and yet wrong. He picked it up, running his fingers over the dirt-streaked plastic. There was no doubt it was the same doll that our son had cherished. "What kind of sick prank is this? Who would do something like this?" he growled, anger flashing in his eyes. I shook my head, tears pricking. "How could it be a prank? We buried it, remember?" That night, sleep eluded me. The house felt unnaturally silent. The silence that presses against your ears. It makes every creak louder. Just past midnight, I woke to the sound of soft footsteps, small, uneven, slow, and dragging, echoing down the hall. Heart pounding, I grabbed my phone and switched on the flashlight. The muddy footprints were there again, smeared across the floor, leading towards my son's old bedroom. The door was cracked open as if someone had just slipped inside, and there on the bed sat the doll, upright and watching. I reached out and the room instantly grew cold. My breath came out in quick, visible puffs. Then a whisper, faint and broken, filled the air. "Mommy?" I stumbled back, gripping the doorframe, trying to steady my shaking hands. My mind told me it was grief and exhaustion, hallucinations born from sleepless nights and unbearable loss, but deep down I knew that this was something else. My husband and I agreed we couldn't ignore it any longer. We drove hours to a remote forest, wrapped the doll in an old blanket, and buried it deep beneath the cold earth, far from our home and the memories that haunted us. The next morning, the house was silent for the first time in months. No footsteps, no whispers, just still, peaceful quiet. I don't know if it was the burial or time slowly healing our wounds, but the weight on my chest eased. I still miss my son every day, but the doll, his dark, twisted reminder, no longer haunted us. Sometimes lying in bed, I think I hear tiny footsteps tapping softly down the hallway. But maybe that's just the way grief whispers in the quiet moments, reminding me that some things can never be truly buried. Our second story also comes from r/scarystories, and it was written 5 years ago as of reading. The title reads, True Haunted Doll. For the last few weeks, I've noticed a weird thing about my dreams. Though they varied, there was one thing that connected all of them. A doll. It was an old fabric doll with buttons for eyes and a huge stitched smile. Her legs were too short and her arms too long, but that's the charm of old dolls. She would also have long red hair gathered in 2 ponytails and a green dress. She looked kind of creepy. She would always be sitting on a shelf, be hidden between the toys or played with by kids. She didn't miss any of my dreams. She was not a main character. She was actually pretty good at hiding. I also noticed more and more incidents with sleep paralysis, always in the morning. I would wake up, unable to move, and she would always sit on my bookshelf. Last night, I had an extremely unpleasant dream, and I woke up in the middle of the night, struggling to sleep. I grabbed my sketchbook, and I drew that doll. Weirdly, just as I finished, I felt an irresistible urge to sleep. I fell asleep with the pencil in my hand. In the morning, I showed the drawing to my mom. She inhaled sharply, so I looked at her. Her face became pale as paper. I asked her what happened, and she ignored me, mumbling that it's impossible, and she saw that doll burning. I sat her down and gave her some tea. When she finally calmed down, she started to explain. Apparently, when she was around 7, she got a doll for Christmas. She was at first very happy, and it quickly became her favorite doll. She called her Kunigunda, a Polish name. I might be mispronouncing that, I'm so sorry. And carried her everywhere. One day, my mom left the doll on the train. She was obviously heartbroken and couldn't move on. But a few days, the doll mysteriously appeared back on her shelf. My grandparents and family didn't know how. My mom, as a kid she was, believed the doll came back by her own. And while crazy, that was the only reasonable way. The family didn't do that. It couldn't be done by a burglar, because why would he break in and just give a doll back? Also, there were no signs of breaking in. And it was the same doll. She was hand-sewn by my grandma and had my mom's name on the leg under the skirt. My mom and all the family quickly stopped thinking about that. A few weeks later, the doll started acting weirdly. She would often disappear for a few days, but she would always find herself back on that shelf. She would also change places. My mom had that doll for a really long time. She claimed that she had her when she was pregnant with me, but she doesn't have any photos. That's when the weird thing happened. I always knew that I was born premature, but Mom never told me she almost lost me in the second trimester. She said she was sleeping and she woke up in a puddle of blood. They obviously rushed to the hospital. When everything calmed down and they realized that I was okay, my dad asked my mom why she slept with Kunigunda. She said she doesn't know what he's talking about. Apparently, he noticed the doll next to her when he picked her up. When they came back home, the doll was sitting on her shelf and she had a little stain of blood on the back of her dress. My mom thought it was enough and she decided to throw the doll in the fire. The doll burned down and Mom forgot for 16 years until now. Kunigunda decided to come back. This third story is from r/creepypasta. The title reads, The Doll in the Crawl Space. I was called to the scene as a favor, not as a cop, as family, but I wish I never walked through that door. My cousin Claire had inherited her grandmother's old farmhouse. She planned to fix it up, flip it, and move out west. Only she never made it that far. I got a call from her number, but all I heard was scraping. No words, no signal, just a slow dragging sound and what might have been breathing, but not human. When I drove out there, her car was still in the driveway, doors locked, lights off, no answer. I found the front door ajar, and inside it smelled like dirt and iron. There were scratch marks on the hardwood floor, small, thin grooves like from doll-sized fingernails. They led from the living room down the hall and stopped at a small wooden door in the wall. The crawl space. The door was slightly open. A red thread trailed out. Inside was dark, but I saw something. A porcelain doll, its eyes pitch black and mouth sewn shut, with that same red thread. Its tiny hands were covered in dried blood, and beneath it, Claire's phone, shattered and sticky. When I reached in to grab it, the doll's head snapped towards me. I jumped back, slammed the crawl space door shut, nailed it shut, but the house didn't feel empty. I found Claire later, or what was left of her. She was curled in the tub upstairs, eyes wide open, mouth stretched far too wide, like it had been ripped that way, sewn shut with red thread. There was no blood in the tub, not a drop. But scrawled on the mirror in red thread were the words, "It only comes to those who look." They say the doll came from a burned orphanage up north, the only thing left intact from a fire where all the children disappeared. It's not haunted by a spirit. It's a husk, a shell for something older, something hungry. If you ever hear the tiny dragging of porcelain feet in your walls, don't look, don't call its name, and never open the crawl space. The fourth story today comes from r/scarystories. It was posted 6 years ago as of reading, and the title reads, Growing Up in a Haunted House, Getting Rid of the Doll. I apologize for the length, but I feel the amount of detail is necessary. My family and I lived in a home we knew to be haunted for 13 years. Many things happened in that house, and this is just one event that happened when I was about 16 years old. For those of you who haven't read my last post, here's a bit of backstory to the doll. After I got home late one night from choir rehearsal, I went straight into the kitchen to make some food. My brother came into the kitchen soon after, freaked out, claiming that he just saw me walking into my room. Apparently, he saw a girl he mistaken for me walk into my room before I was even home. I also hadn't even been in my room yet, so it couldn't have been me. We called my parents and waited for them to get home. My brother was home alone when he saw the girl. We stayed out of the room until they got there. My dad went straight into my room and found a doll that looked exactly like the girl my brother described, clothes and all. It took us about a week to get rid of the doll, and it was a bit of a process to do so. I wanted to see the doll gone with my own eyes, so I made sure to witness every attempt to get rid of it. The first attempt. The same night the doll was found, my dad decided to try the simple thing of just throwing it into the trash. My mom refused to have the thing in the house, so my dad took the doll to the trash bin outside. I saw the doll land inside the trash bin and knew the dumpster truck would be coming the next day to pick it up. I waited early morning the next day before leaving school to see the truck take the trash. After the truck passed, I felt safe enough to leave for school, since I thought this was the last of it. When I got home after school, the doll was back in my room exactly where my dad found it the night before. Second attempt. It has now been about 3 days since we first found the doll. This time my dad decides to have it destroyed in busy traffic. A friend from church was visiting and went with us to take the doll and throw it into traffic to get run over. The main street we chose was about 10 minutes drive away from our house. My dad threw the doll into traffic and we waited until we were sure it was gone. It was never hit. At one point, my dad and I turned our heads towards each other to comment on how it was taking so long. That's when my friend pointed out the doll was in a sitting position and facing towards us. It originally landed flat on its back. My blood ran cold when I saw it. Then a car finally hit the doll, but in a weird enough angle to send it flying in our direction. Instead of running it over, it scraped by my leg and hit my friend on the knee so hard that he got a cut from it. We decided to leave it on the street there. It showed up on our doorstep the next day. Third attempt. My dad was fed up and so was I. We agreed to try and actually destroy the doll. We used fire. I made the fire on our back porch while my dad drenched the thing in lighter fluid. Once the fire was big enough, he threw it into the center of it. It never caught on fire. We tended to the fire for about an hour to keep it alive and just hoped it would work. When it started getting late, we let the fire die on its own. Checked on it the next day, and the doll was completely intact. The dress wasn't even singed. Final attempt. My dad finally decided to contact our church pastor, they're really good friends of ours, and explain the situation to him. His son was my friend that witnessed one of our failures and got hurt in the process and was able to testify for us about the situation. My pastor and his family came to our house and saw the doll still in the fire pit. My dad began making a new fire while my pastor began dousing the doll in olive oil while saying a prayer. His wife and another woman went into the room while they were doing this and started a blessing in there. Then my pastor threw the doll into the fire and threw more olive oil onto it, and continued with his prayer. My dad held his Bible out towards the doll as our pastor opened his and began reading a passage out loud. That was when the doll finally caught fire. The women in my room essentially did the same thing. One held out her Bible while praying as the other began reading a passage out loud from it. The doll was now ash by the end of this. Our pastor put all the ashes in the fire pit into a bag and took them with him to throw away in a public dumpster. The doll never came back after that. I was still too scared to sleep in my room for a few more weeks, but it felt safe enough to enter again. Our last story of the day is from r/scarystories. It was posted 3 years ago as of reading, and the title reads, "I found this strange doll in the forest and I haven't felt right ever since." To preface this story, I'm a plant biology student at my local college, so I like to take nature walks to keep my plant identification skills sharp. This morning, I was on one of my nature walks looking around a large oak tree when I noticed a strange object directly in the center of what seemed to be a red spray paint circle. Of course, me being the idiot I am, I decided to investigate immediately. I walked over to the object and noticed it seemed to be some sort of doll, made of tightly woven sticks and what looked to be hair. I backed away disgusted and decided that was enough investigating for the day. However, the closer I got back to home, the more I couldn't stop thinking about the doll. So foolishly, I turned around to retrieve it. I got back to the doll, picked it up, and tossed it in my bag and started to head back to my apartment. After finally making it back to my apartment, I pulled the doll out of my bag and placed it on my kitchen table. The long walk through the forest absolutely demolished my energy, so I decided to pull a frozen pizza out of the freezer and heat it up. Not so patiently waiting for the pizza to be done, I wound up staring at the doll. There was something off about it, other than the fact that it had what I assumed was human hair in it, and I found it in the middle of the forest. Just as I started to get lost in thought about the doll, the timer on my oven started to ring. I waltzed over to the oven and pulled out the pizza, my mouth watering as the hunger started to overcome me. I sat down and pulled up a video on my phone as I refused to eat without entertainment. Just as fast as I took a bite of the pizza, I spit it out. Something tasted awful about it. I mean, sure, it's no gourmet meal, but I've had plenty of frozen pizzas and none that tasted this foul. I played it off as I must have gotten an old pizza or something. Poured a glass of water from the tap and took a sip to wash the nasty taste from my mouth, but the water tasted just as vile. I started to panic and grabbed anything that was halfway edible from the pantries and fridge, and all of it tasted horrid. But as I started to vomit from the horrendous taste of the combinations of food I had just eaten, I started to hear what seemed to be the sound of snapping twigs coming from the kitchen table. I looked over and gasped in fear as I noticed a mouth start to form on the face of the doll. As soon as the mouth on the doll seemed to complete, my mouth instantly seemed to dry out. It was so dry, if I moved my tongue, it started to crack and bleed. I sprinted to the bathroom to see if I could notice a difference in my mouth. I got to the mirror and fell to my knees in horror. My mouth has lost all color. Everything from my lips to my throat had turned a drab gray color. I started to cry at the sight of my mouth and the astronomical pain that I was enduring. The tears streaming down my face started to get thicker and thicker. I wanted to stand up to look into the mirror, but stayed down out of fear of what I would witness. After around 2 to 3 minutes, I started to lose vision in my left eye, and my tears were the consistency of gravy. I had to stand and look just to soothe the feeling of curiosity and fear. I stood up and noticed what seemed to be mud pouring from my eyes. My heart sunk to the bottom of my stomach. I made my way to the kitchen, and just as I had thought, the doll started to form sockets right above where the mouth had formed. I've decided to use what I think are my last few minutes of vision to write this out and post it on whatever media platforms I can before I lose the ability to see. If you're ever wandering through the forest and stumble upon a doll, I strongly advise you to head the other direction. And that concludes our stories for this episode of Paperbound Monsters. Which of these stories do you think will keep you up at night? Which one will you take on with you for years to come, and which ones will you share with others? Leave a comment down below of what your favorite story was today and why. and let me know what other themes we should use in videos to come. Goodbye and happy resting.